Webull stock closed Tuesday's trading session at $13.45, down about 14 cents or just over 1% on the day. That modest red number on the screen doesn't tell the whole story, though. Earlier in the session, Webull had dropped to as low as $12.76, marking a fresh intraday low, before recovering steadily into the close. That bounce off the lows is an important detail. It shows that while the stock faced pressure in line with broader market weakness, buyers stepped in and defended the stock from slipping further. So what really happened Tuesday? And what does it mean as we look ahead into Wednesday and the rest of this week? First, it's worth remembering that markets in general were under pressure. The Nasdaq spent most of the day in the red as traders digested a mix of macro signals, including lingering concerns about growth, inflation, and the timing of interest rate moves. In that environment, Fintech and growth stocks like Webull often act as higher beta names, meaning they move more sharply in either direction. Tuesday was no exception. But while the market context explains some of the early weakness, it doesn't explain the late-day resilience. That part comes down to the fundamentals, and in Webull's case, the fundamentals remain very strong. Just last week, Webull delivered second-quarter numbers that exceeded expectations and gave investors plenty to be optimistic about. Revenue surged 46% year-over-year to more than $131 million. Trading-related revenue climbed 63% compared to the same period last year. Customer assets on the platform reached nearly $16 billion, a record high. And most importantly, Webull notched its third consecutive quarter of operating profitability. For a fintech that's often compared to Robinhood and other digital brokerages, proving profitability isn't just a milestone, it's a transformation. It shows that Webull is more than a growth story. It's becoming a sustainable business with a clear path forward. The user metrics paint the same picture. Funded accounts rose nearly 9% year-over-year to 4.7 million, while registered users climbed 18% to almost 25 million. Engagement is deepening as well, with equity trading volumes up 58% and options activity growing 8%. These figures highlight a platform that's not just adding new users, but also keeping them active. That's the lifeblood of any brokerage, and it's working in Webull's favor. Crypto remains an important piece of the Webull narrative. The integration of Webull Pay into the main US trading app has made it seamless for users to trade digital assets alongside stocks and options. That's a big differentiator in today's market, where retail investors want convenience and flexibility. International expansion is also underway, with Brazil and Australia opening as new crypto markets. In Australia alone, Webull is now offering access to more than 240 digital assets through Coinbase Prime's infrastructure. That global reach gives the company not only new revenue opportunities, but also diversification outside of the US. Against that backdrop, Tuesday's action looks less like a red flag and more like a pause. Yes, the stock traded lower. Yes, it briefly dipped under $13. But the recovery into the close shows that the fundamentals are giving buyers confidence. It's also a sign that some of the profit-taking and fear that drove last week's sharp decline may be running its course. Looking ahead to Wednesday and beyond, there are a few key things to watch. Technically, the stock has carved out support around $12.75, the exact level where it bounced intraday Tuesday. That's an area traders will be watching closely. As long as that support holds, the setup for a rebound remains intact. On the upside, resistance is sitting around $15.50 to $16. A decisive move above that zone could spark renewed momentum and shift sentiment back toward the bulls. From a sentiment perspective, Webull continues to draw attention. Analysts have upgraded the stock to buy, pointing to accelerating revenue, growing deposits, and better monetization per user. Retail chatter remains lively as well, with many investors still targeting $20 in the near term and some speculating on even bigger moves over a longer horizon. Whether those higher price targets are realistic in the short run isn't the point. The fact that they're being discussed keeps attention and interest on Webull. The macro backdrop could also start to tilt more in Webull's favor. Jerome Powell's recent comments at Jackson Hole hinted at the possibility of rate cuts on the horizon. Lower rates generally boost appetite for growth stocks and fintech names, as they reduce pressure on future earnings valuations. If bond yields ease further and markets regain confidence, Webull could be one of the stocks to benefit most, thanks to its profitability and growth story. Of course, risks remain. Execution on the crypto relaunch has to be smooth, and regulatory headlines could create short-term volatility. Competition is fierce, with Robinhood, Schwab, Fidelity, and Coinbase all fighting for investor attention. And while 3 quarters of profitability are impressive, the market will want to see consistency over the next several quarters to cement the bull case. But stepping back, Tuesday's action should be viewed through an optimistic lens. The stock faced pressure, dipped, and then recovered. The fundamentals remain intact. The catalysts, crypto integration, global expansion, user growth, profitability, are still alive and well. The technical chart is showing clear support levels, and the macro environment could turn supportive in the weeks ahead. For traders, the message is clear: watch 1275 on the downside and 1550 on the upside. For long-term investors, the message is even clearer: Webull's story remains strong. Short-term volatility is part of the journey, but the direction of travel is still positive. As we wrap up Tuesday's session and look to Wednesday, the narrative is shifting from fear back toward opportunity. Webull isn't just a stock reacting to market jitters. It's a company with real growth, real profitability, and real expansion plans. That's the kind of foundation that can carry a stock higher over time, even if the day-to-day moves are choppy. So while the screen shows a 1% loss for Tuesday, the bigger story is resilience. Webull bounced off its lows, buyers stepped in, and the long-term outlook remains bullish. The question now is whether Wednesday brings confirmation of that resilience in the form of another bounce. Given the fundamentals, the sentiment, and the setup, the odds look good. For investors willing to stomach the volatility, this may be the kind of moment that, months from now, looks like just another stepping stone in Webull's longer bull run.